Good afternoon. Hey, this is Larson here, and we are going to just go through the quiz that was assigned last Friday. And part of going through the quiz is learning from the mistakes that you made, but another part of it is just kind of learning what the teacher is expecting. And so I don't want you to feel bad because we've been in this kind of distant learning COVID situation for a long time, and we have got to kind of figure out each other. And so that's why I just wanted you to be able to listen and watch. So our learning target for this particular video is that you would be able to kind of see what I expect when it comes to an assessment and how it is best to do things in Schoology just to make things roll smoothly. So I'm just going to start. This may have not been your first question because they were at random, but let's just start with it. And remember, the question I want you to be asking is, what do I know? What do I need to answer? What am I solving for? And then how best to share it out. And so I'm just going to underline real quick. In fact, I'm going to highlight, this is what we're looking for. I want to identify, and then the slope is. So I want a value for the slope, a number, and then I also notice that it should be in fraction form. Okay, I can do that. So I'm just going to start by rewriting this equation, and it equals negative 12. So I need to get the y by itself because I want it in the form of slope-intercept form. That's the really kind of the easiest thing to do. Because right now it's in standard form. I'm going to change it into slope-intercept form. So I'm going to subtract 3x, and what I end up with is a negative 4y. That's the only thing that's over there because that becomes 0. That's gone. That equals, and I'm going to write the negative 3x first minus 12. Good news. I can take care of this just by, I got to get rid of this coefficient, the negative 4 times y, do the opposite, and divide. And then we end up with that canceling to be 1, and I end up with y equals. And this negative 4 is a denominator in kind of a complex fraction. So I'm going to divide the denominator into both of these things in the numerator. So it's going to be negative 3x over a negative 4 minus 12 over a negative 4. And what you'd notice is that the negative over a negative becomes a positive, and I end up with 3/4 x, and then negative over a negative is a positive, so I end up with 3. So my y-intercept is 3. I don't need to know that. All it's asking for is the slope. So this is in slope-intercept form, so right there is my slope. So I would type in 3/4. 3 divided by 4, leave it like that. Okay, question 2. Again, I think it is wise just to, use your highlighter. I need to find an x-intercept, and that's it. And my equation that I'm looking for is right there. So let's just begin. I know that if I was being asked for the y-intercept, that it is right there. That is my value for b, because this thing is in this nice form of y equals mx plus b, the slope-intercept form. But it's not in a form where you get the x-intercept really quick. You get the x-intercept very quickly. What you need to do is solve for it. We know that this number right here, 0, 1, is in fact the y-intercept. And what I want you to recognize is that when 1 is the y-intercept, x is 0. So I already know that, but now I want the x-intercept, and it's just the opposite. I have a 0 for y. I need to find out what that is. So I'm just going to plug it in. When y equals 0, in fact, I'll do it down here, 0 equals negative 5/4 x plus 1. In order to solve x, to get this by itself, I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. I end up with negative 1 equaling negative 5/4 x. And what I need to do is divide by this coefficient of negative 5/4 and divide by negative 5/4. And what you end up with, remember when you have a negative divided by a negative, and so your x, this cancels out, and your x equals, it's going to be a positive number, but 1 times the reciprocal of the denominator, because when I divide by a fraction, I flip it over and multiply. And so what I end up with is, as an answer, is just 4/5. So all I would type in is 4/5. Okay? 4/5. Done. Leave that question be. Next, I want to identify the slope of a line perpendicular to the line x plus 5y equals negative 15. So I want the slope, and the line is perpendicular, and what I know is this. I want the slope of a perpendicular line. So I'm going to go back to this and just write down the x plus 5y equals a negative 15. I'm going to subtract x from both sides and end up with 5y equals negative x minus 15. I divide both sides because I want to get rid of this coefficient in front of the y. Divide both sides by 5. Life is good. 5 divided by 5 is 1, so I just end up with y. And it's a negative 1x over 5. And then this minus 15 is also over 5. So what I end up with is y equals negative 1/5 x minus 3. Okay, now that's not the answer we were looking for. This is the slope of this line that we started out with. But we want the line perpendicular to it. So I know that the slope of this line is negative 1/5. But if I put that in here, I would be incorrect, because remember, perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes, or negative inverses. So all I want to do is flip this over, 5 over 1, and make it positive. So the slope of the line that is perpendicular to this original equation is 5. That's what I would type it in, leave it. It says, make sure your answer is a whole number of fraction, no decimals. We did it. Okay. In this next question, we're given this equation, and what we're supposed to do is graph it. Okay, we can do that. Again, it is easiest and quickest to get to the answer when you put it in this form. So let's just take this equation that is given, and I want to subtract 6x from both sides. I end up with, I'm going to move the 3y over a little bit. 3y equals negative 6x minus 15. I divide by 3, get rid of this coefficient, divide by 3. The 3 belongs to both the negative 6x and the negative 15, so I end up with y equaling a negative 2x, and minus 15 over 3 is a minus 5. Well, that's good, because that will be fairly easy to graph. That was the thing. And your line won't look quite as neat as mine, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down, we put a point. And then this slope, you might want to say that the slope is a negative 2, and I always like making it a fraction, because then this is the rise over the run. And in this case, it's actually a fall. It's going down negative 2 and 1 to the right. So all I do is go 1, down 1, 2, 1 to the right. Down 1, 2, 1 to the right. Down 1, 2, 1 to the right. So that is a number of points on the line. So I'm just going to Looks like that. So that's what your line should have looked like. And so there you go. This was probably the most challenging problem because it takes writing the equation, solving a system of equations, and then knowing what you have solved for. So again, what I'm going to do is just try to model for you. There's a 45, one organizer, one person that's getting paid for a job gets $45 flat fee plus $20 per hour. Another person that's doing the same job has a $30 fee and gets $26 per hour. So what we want to do then is we want to write and solve a system of equations. We want to find the number of hours when their fees will be the same, and what will that charge be. So let's start by defining some variables. This first sentence is going to be, we're going to define two variables. Let's just say that X is the number of hours to finish job, because that's what we're ultimately going to find. And what I know is that Y is the cost of the project, the professional organization project. So what we're going to do is Y is the cost, the total cost, and I know that it's $45 plus $20 per hour times the number of hours is 20x, and I'm going to leave it there. That is this first equation. Let's call it equation, well, let's just call it the first equation. The second one is here. We know that another person that does the same job is the cost of the project is a $30 fee plus $26 per hour. So 26 per hour times the number of hours is the cost of her hourly work. So 26 times X. So right away what you notice is I've got a system of equations. It looks like this. Which is nice. Those are the easiest kinds of equations to solve. So what I would do up here is I would write, using my keyboard, Y equals 45 plus 20x, no spaces. The other one that I'd write is Y equals 30 plus 26x, done with those two equations. Now to find the numbers, the number of hours, we could either graph it or we could solve it. And I like to solve it because it's set up. What I notice is that Y equals 45 plus 20x. Wherever I see a Y in this equation down here, like there, I am going to set them equal to each other. Because what I'm trying to find is where the cost of the project is going to be the same. So all I do is write this and then solve. Subtract 20x. Subtract 30. This ends up with 6x. And by the way, these cancel. And 45 minus 30 is 15. And so when I divide by 6, this cancels out, and I end up with an answer of 15 over 6, which is, in a mixed numeral, 2 and 3 over 6 hours, which is 2 1/2 hours. So right away, my X value is 2.5 hours. Now, in order to find Y, I just got to plug it back in. So I could take either of those equations and I'm going to get the same number. And so then I will do Y equals 45 plus 20 times 2.5. 2.5 times 20 is 50 plus 45 equals Y. So Y equals 95. And if you did this one, you would get exactly the same. Y equals 30 plus 26 times 2.5. 26 times 2 is 52, and 13 more is 65. So 30 plus 65 is what Y equals. And in both cases, you end up with 95. So what is the number of hours for their fees? Write as a whole number or a decimal. 2.5, 2.5. What will that charge be? 9.5. Done. And then many of you did this effectively. You just took a picture of your notes and you uploaded them, and then you would get a point for doing that. So thank you. So this was just a quick review of how to get to know how we're going to be testing this year. And so thanks for listening.